to Ask the Patient Advocate podcast, where we will discuss all things related to navigating your health. I am Dr. Elena Borrelli, and I'm so excited to talk about such an important topic of private patient advocacy. Managing your health and navigating the healthcare system is challenging, but it's a lot better when we go through it together. Welcome back to a new episode of Ask the Patient Advocate podcast. Today we're talking about something that affects every single part of our health journey, but often feels confusing, overwhelming, or even frustrating. Nutrition and wellness, especially how it relates to cancer. And I'm really excited to introduce today's guest, Samantha Peterson, though she goes by Sammy. Sammy is a registered dietitian and founder and CEO of Simply Wellness, and someone who brings a truly refreshing, realistic, and holistic approach to health. Welcome, Sammy, to our show. I'm very happy to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, especially to talk about something that is so important to me and many of our listeners today.
I absolutely agree. I think this is a very underemphasized and highlighted topic, and I'd really kind of love to start with your story. So, you began your career as a clinical oncology dietitian. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so, how did that experience shape the way that you approach health and wellness today?
Well, this is such a great question because it has everything to do with the practitioner and how I approach health today. As you had mentioned, I began my career as a clinical oncology dietitian in a hospital where conventional medicine and complementary care truly lived under one roof. It was a very whole person, mind body environment, and that experience fundamentally shaped how I view and also approach health and healing today. I had the privilege of working closely with patients during some of the most vulnerable moments of their lives. And what stood out to me wasn't just how powerful nutrition was, it was how transformative it became when we cared for the entire person as a multidisciplinary team together. When emotional support, nervous system regulation, lifestyle habits, supplementation, and whole body mind care were addressed alongside the medical treatment, people didn't just survive, they felt more supported, more empowered, and ultimately more connected to their bodies. And they often handled treatment better and more proactively, which is so important because they had the real tools and strategies. And at the same time, we were laying the foundation for survivorship because survivorship truly starts day one. And one phrase that has stayed with me since then, and I heard it over and over from patients that didn't even know one another across the United States. And that phrase was this: I wish it didn't take cancer for me to change. Hearing it again and again made something very clear to me, that there had to be a way that was proactive instead of reactive, one that didn't require a crisis to begin caring for yourself, and one that ultimately felt simple, sustainable, and genuinely good to maintain long term. And that realization is truly what led me to open up my private practice. And so our philosophy is rooted in the idea that health should be supportive, not stressful, that it can be effective and also feel good at the same time. It is very possible. And also through my clinical experience, I saw firsthand that nutrition alone is rarely the full answer. That's why today I work with what we call the 5 elements of wellness. We look at nutrition, of course, but we also address the mindset and emotional health, the physical body itself, including things like digestion, sleep, movement, hormones, intimacy, lifestyle architecture, meaning how routines are designed and actually executed in real life. And finally, environmental design, really setting up someone's surroundings to make healthy choices feel easier and more natural. So that shift from focusing on just food to caring for the whole human was a complete game changer for me. And it's now the foundation of how I support every patient and client I work with. And it's why the work I do today feels so aligned, impactful, and ultimately sustainable, which is what we want for every listener, family member listening to this show today.
Absolutely. That's amazing. I mean, I'm impressed that you worked at a facility that worked hand in hand with the two because that's very rare. I mean, I will say there has been positive changes toward, like strides toward that. But when I first started practicing as a provider years ago, it was almost like, well, you have to pick one or the other. You can't have both. So if you're in
Mm,
the hospital, then there is no holistic. There's nothing you have to do medicine. This is what this just how it is. And so it was
yes.
almost like patients are, and I still see it a lot today, they're being forced to pick like which route do I want because the two are not complementary. And that's, I disagree. I think that is not the case. I think complementary is definitely the way to go. Just out of curiosity, what state was this in?
Arizona, actually. And it was, I don't know if this is still true to this day, but at that time, they were the only farm to table hospital as well. So we had our own farm that we would pick our own produce, and then that would feed both our stakeholders because we all have a stake in someone's life. So we were called stakeholders, not employees.
That's
And
awesome.
it fed, yeah, and it fed our patients too. So it was just that continuity of care that we practice what we preach, and we also believe in that whole body, mind, person care approach together as a team.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is great. I hope that many more healthcare facilities have replicated that model because it seems like a very good one.
Yeah, and if I may add just one thing, I was going
Yeah,
to say, especially in a situation that can be very stressful. And one thing I thought that was really important was everything was under one roof. So it's not like you had to drive to this facility, find this building, find this person. It was just seamless care. So you just walk down the hall and you get taken care of. Absolutely beautiful.
that is amazing. That we definitely need more of those for sure. More of those facilities and setups. So many of our listeners feel overwhelmed by the idea of a health journey. Diets, restrictions, rules, it can feel like so many tasks are like miserable. So explain, why do you think wellness has become so complicated in your opinion?
It is a wonderful question and one I get asked a lot of times. I think wellness has become complicated for a few layered reasons, and none of them are because people aren't trying hard enough. And that's something to really know. So, first, a lot of us are carrying what we were exposed to when we were growing up. We watched how our parents talked about foods, stress, rest, and what the definition of success actually is. We absorbed habits and beliefs and rules without even realizing it. And we also paid attention to what was praised, what was restricted, what was ignored, and what was ultimately normalized. And that early conditioning plays a huge role in how we relate to health as adults. And then fast forward to today, we're living in an environment of constant information overload. And it is so true, right? We're exposed to advice from social media, news outlets, podcasts, books, your mom, your best friend, and the latest headline, all telling you all telling you what you should be doing. And the problem is that much of that information isn't actually science backed and isn't accurate and almost never considers that individual person. So, what works for one body, one season of life, or even one nervous system doesn't automatically work for another. But wellness culture presents health as a one size fits all, which creates this confusion, comparison, and also self doubt. People end up jumping from plan to plan, thinking they're the problem, when really the approach was never personalized in the first place. Another big piece is that we've turned wellness into a performance. We see more rules, more tracking, more discipline, as if health is something you have to earn by doing it right. And that really strips away the intuition, ease, and the sustainability. And it's why so many people feel burned out by something that is supposed to support them. So, at its core, wellness doesn't need to be complicated. I want everyone to really hear that. What we do want it to feel and be for you is supportive, personalized, and flexible, and something that actually works with your real life and not against it. And when we shift from chasing perfection to building awareness and systems that actually fit the individual, health starts to feel more doable and a whole lot less miserable. And that's the way we like it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm definitely on board. I love it.
Yeah, yes.
So let's talk about a little bit about cancer specifically. So cancer
Yeah.
treatment side effects vary, but a big one is nausea, changes in taste, fatigue. Sometimes they have like these specific tastes, I know, where like a metallic taste or things like that. Some of the treatment can cause that. And they make eating incredibly difficult. So, what are some like realistic, compassionate strategies that you recommend to help these patients nourish themselves? Because I know we were talking a little bit before we started recording, but it is like mind blowing to me how many times I've spoken to oncologists and been in appointments with patients, and they'll say, what could I eat to help like support in my journey, my management, my symptoms, and they're always like, oh, it doesn't matter, eat whatever you want, and it's like that's not can't be the answer. That cannot be the answer. There has to be a different answer.
Nope, nope.
Yes.
There has to be a better way, and there is, because you're very spot on. Cancer treatment can make eating feel really challenging, both for the patient and the family. Those are two sides we want to consider. And I always like to start by reframing the goal. So we start here. During treatment, nutrition isn't about eating perfectly, it's about supporting your body in the most realistic, compassionate way possible and preventing or reversing any malnutrition should it be present. So, when I'm working with someone, whether discussing potential treatment side effects proactively or we're addressing symptom management in real time, I would want them to understand what symptom is impacting their ability to eat the most. Whether it's a low appetite, nausea, taste changes, or that fatigue. And then we start there. Once we address that main barrier or that main symptoms that is making eating challenging, everything else becomes more manageable. So, for example, with taste changes, it's important to know that this is a real treatment related side effect, whether it's metallic, zero taste changes, hypersensitivity taste changes, or even something feeling like it tastes like garbage. I've seen it all, or even dirt was another one. Small adjustments, though, can help. So consider things like using non metal utensils, such as bamboo, for instance, drinking from glass instead of, say, a plastic bottle, or using a little bit of citrus, whether that's a lemon or a mandarin squeeze, like those little cuties. I always like to recommend take a little slice, pop one in your mouth, eat that before a meal, or you can even do a lozenge version of something that has citrus, which can help really wake up the taste buds so you can actually taste the food again and we can enhance the taste. In some cases, also, I'll have my patients talk with their care team about zinc supplementation, which can also help support taste perception as well. Now, when nausea shows up, the shift begins to focus to calming both the stomach and the nervous system. So I like to create little toolkits, if you will, because that's ultimately very calming for that nervous system. Because sometimes I also see what's called anticipatory nausea, like they're just waiting, for the nausea to appear. So I'm like, let's take some of these tools that we're talking about now. We'll make a little toolkit. Keep that always on you on hand, and then should you need it, it's available. So that is one management, a way we can really support nervous system related nausea, especially related to stress or that anticipatory stress. Other things you can try: room temperature fluids are often better tolerated than something that is very hot or very cold. And then sipping more of your liquids between your meals rather than with can really help reduce that overly full, nauseous feeling that can often happen. Ginger is also one of my, right? Ginger is also one of my favorite go-tos, and there's so many different forms of ginger. So whether we do a concentrated ginger tea, like I'll recommend putting a couple ginger tea bags, make it super concentrated, let it be room temperature, and take it by the spoonful. Every time you walk past the kitchen, or if you're in your place of work and you're in your office, keep it on your desk. Or you can also try things like ginger chews. They're completely portable and travel friendly. Other things you can also try: a good old classic ginger ale or ginger brew. And there's a lot of them out there that are actually made with real ginger that could be really supportive. And if the carbonation tends to be bothersome for the stomach, you can simply let the top pop off and let it go flat. And sometimes that can be better tolerated. Or the best option too, when we're talking about ginger, take a fresh ginger root, no more than an inch off, place it on the inside of your cheek and just suck. The goal here is to get the nausea down so that now we can have the opportunity to eat. And alongside nausea, another symptom that I tend to see a lot of is smell sensitivity. This could be another big barrier. So, really, we want to think about how can we minimize exposure to different smells that tend to be triggering or activating for things like nausea or suppressing of the appetite. So, something to consider is maybe choosing cooler or room temperature foods. They don't give off as much aroma as something that's hot. Another key thing is simply open up your windows. If you're going to be cooking, prepping, or even being around a kitchen, sometimes just having the open ventilation is enough to help with that smell sensitivity. And ultimately, keep your meals really simple. That way, your exposure to smells and odors from foods is minimal. And then lastly, a big thing I want to talk about is appetite. Of course, appetite's a big one. And it's kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Is it a low appetite or is it related to a symptom? So, coming back to what I was first saying, we want to be really clear about what is the most impactful symptom that is making eating a challenge. And sometimes it is strictly a loss of appetite. And so, when appetite is low, consistency matters more than quantity. Oftentimes, smaller, more frequent meals, about 5 to 6 times a day, are much easier to tolerate than getting through a full plate of food. I'll also often suggest little vibration reminders as alarms to go off as a cue to check back in with your body and make sure you're getting even just a little nutrition in. So these small meals could be as small as your palm full. It doesn't have to be bigger. We just want the opportunity to get that nutrition in. So, with that, I like to work with the psychological aspect. So, I wanted to offer a little tip around this. Presentation matters. And I'm speaking to both patient and family alike. So, if you're a family member and you're preparing food, keep this in mind. Use a smaller plate or a bowl. This will help make portions feel less overwhelming and more achievable for the patient, which can actually help appetite build over time. And then I also encourage a simple order of eating, starting with your protein first, using maybe soft, easy to chew options like eggs, yogurt, fish, tofu, shredded poultry, ground beans, well cooked beans and meats alike. Then moving on to your fruits and your vegetables. And then lastly, your starchy carbs. And this is awesome because this helps ensure that you're getting in that protein first before anything else. So, should you get full, halfway through the meal or the appetite starts to kick in and you say, nope, I'm good, we at least that protein in first, which is really key. And then one more quick side note, fatigue. We see fatigue a lot with a variety of treatments when it comes to cancer care. So fatigue plays a huge role. So the thing you want to consider when it comes to nutrition is that nourishment needs to feel and be easy when fatigue is really present. And that might look like working with bone broth based soups, having pre made smoothie bags that are done for you, sipping on bone broth, having other prepared options or drinks that you can sip on throughout the day that don't require a lot of preparation, a lot of decision, or a lot of time or effort on your side of things. Gentle movement can also help with that fatigue and digestion activation, making it a little bit easier to eat as well. Most importantly, I always remind my patients that nourishment during treatment is about flexibility, compassion, and really meeting your body where it is that day. And supporting yourself through treatment doesn't have to be complicated, it just needs to be kind. really approach yourself or your family member that you're helping support with kindness and intentionality. And we can work around and or reverse or prevent of these symptoms through nutrition, which is absolutely beautiful.
I love that. That is amazing. It's so many helpful tips. Two comments that I have regarding the ginger. So I can definitely attest to the ginger to choose because when I was pregnant with my son, I had terrible nausea, and that was the only thing that worked. So
Mm.
I do attest to that. Um, but the other thing is the ginger ale. I honestly did not know that there was actually ginger in those drinks. I mean,
Yes.
it definitely makes sense given the name, but I guess I just never thought
Yeah.
about that.
Now, it's not true for all of them, so it makes
Yeah,
sense why
yeah.
you thought that, but some of them actually do, like, there are some specific brands, and all you wanna look at is flip the back, look at that ingredients, and it should actually list real ginger in there, and then, of course, you're
Nice.
gonna taste it too because it's gonna have that spice. Now, of course, if
Yeah,
ginger isn't everybody's forte, and because you had mentioned the pregnancy aspect as well,
yeah.
I love a good C-band. A C-band is something that's not anything you have to
Oh,
eat, but uses that
yeah,
acupressure point on your wrist. So just keeping those on
smart.
hand, and it can go in your little toolkit, that you keep on you. And it's perfect because you just pop them on at that first signs of nausea. And then it's very easy and it's non-medicated. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's another great tip. Wonderful. So we've talked about this a bit, but as far as someone who's newly diagnosed with cancer, nutrition often feels overwhelming to get and gets pushed aside. But
Mm.
from an oncology dietitian standpoint, why is nutrition such a critical part of cancer care from day one?
Fantastic question. And I would love to go over this. It's such an important one because nutrition, it's true, it's often overlooked early on, yet it plays such a foundational role throughout the entire cancer journey, not just before and not just during, but also afterwards as well. From day one, nutrition helps us identify, prevent, and even reverse malnutrition, which is far more common in cancer care than many people realize. And sometimes we see this with weight loss, muscle loss, nutrient deficiencies. These can all happen quickly during treatment. And when those are not addressed early on, they can directly impact how someone tolerates care. Nutrition also plays a major role in the symptom management and prevention, just like we were talking. Things like the nausea, fatigue, chase changes, early fullness, pain, digestive issues, the loss of appetite don't just affect, they affect a person's ability to eat. They nourished and keep up their strength, which is our ultimate goal. And when we proactively support from a nutrition side, we can often prevent or reduce the severity of these symptoms and help people and their families feel more supported through treatment, which is so key. And finally, nutrition is deeply tied to quality of life and overall wellness and their well being. It influences everything from energy, recovery, immune function, and someone's own resilience. And having enough nutrition helps patients tolerate treatment, reduce the likelihood of dose delays and dose reductions, and supports their ability to move through treatment more steadily and confidently. So, from a nutritional support standpoint, it's about giving your body the support it needs to get through treatment as strong as possible and come out on the other side with a better foundation for healing and for survivorship. When nutrition is integrated early, it becomes a tool for support, not another source of stress.
I love that. I love that. That is so helpful. And so, another thing that I've learned is that your motto is health made simple, feels good, and connects across the world. And what does health made simple actually look like in real life?
Ah, in real life, simplicity looks like focusing on a few supportive foundations instead of chasing perfection. It means helping someone understand what actually matters most for their body right now not what's trending, not what worked for someone else, and not another rigid set of rules. Simple looks like meals that are realistic, repeatable, and nourishing, not complicated plans that fall apart the moment life gets busy. It looks like routines that flex with your schedule, your energy, the season of life that you're in, instead of systems that require that constant willpower to maintain. And we've all been there. It also means honoring the nervous system. When someone is stressed, overwhelmed, or even burned out, the do more approach will backfire. So, simplicity often looks like slowing down, stabilizing your energy, supporting your digestion, and creating a sense of safety in the body first. Because when the body feels supported, everything else works better. And when I also say feels good, so when health made simple and feels good, what I mean by that is health shouldn't feel like a punishment. It should feel supportive, empowering, and sustainable. If a plan makes someone feel anxious, depleted, or even disconnected from their body, it's not working, no matter how healthy it looks on paper. So, at its core, Health Made Simple is truly about alignment. It's about creating systems that work in real life, feel good in your body, and can be carried forward for the long term. When health feels simple, people stop fighting their bodies. That's when real change happens.
That is wonderful. I think it's just very properly explained, and during a challenging time in a person's life, to have that option to help with your journey is amazing. And it doesn't
Mm.
seem, the way that you're explaining it doesn't make it seem like another extra chore, which is
Yes.
amazing.
Yes, that's exactly it. Yes.
So, for someone listening who feels stuck, burned out, or unsure where to begin, what would you say to them?
I want them to know that nothing is wrong with them. Feeling stuck or burned out isn't a personal failure. It's often a sign that they've been carrying too much for too long. So if you're unsure of where to begin, the answer usually isn't to do more. Yay, we love that. It's actually about doing less, but with intention. Encourage people to pause and ask this one simple question: where do I need the most support right now? Where do I need the most support right now? That question really helps cut through the noise and brings the focus back to what your body and life actually need in this moment. And for some people, that might be energy, feeling exhausted no matter how much they sleep. For others, it's stress or feeling constantly on, inability to slow down. It could also be digestion, appetite, sleep, or even eating more fruits and vegetables for their bodies and minds. There's no right or wrong answer, though, here. Whatever comes up, simply information through that question. And once you identify that answer or that area, the next step is to make support feel almost too doable. It's kind of fun. What we want to do is just one small action into your current life. If your energy is low, that might mean prioritizing one nourishing meal or snack each day. If stress is high and that's the focus you want to focus, it could be incorporating 2 minutes of breathing or stepping outside or creating a brief pause before jumping into your next task. If somebody's digestion feels off, it might be as simple as slowing down while you eat, like putting your phone between bites, or choosing foods that just feel gentler on your system. And I recommend anywhere between 1 to 3 focuses max at a given time. Because one thing we all need to remember is health doesn't have to be rebuilt. It's built through those consistent moments of self care. And when we try to change everything at once, the nervous system is often the thing that pushes back. But when support repeatable and safe for you to do so, the body begins to respond in a real way. Remind people that it's okay to ask for help. You don't need to have all the answers before you start. We call that analysis or overthinking. So, whether you get support from professionals guidance, community, or resources, they can all make your path more clear and less overwhelming.
I love that. That's amazing. Sammy, this has been such an empowering and refreshing conversation. Before we wrap up, where can our listeners learn more about you and Simply Wellness?
Thank you so much for having me first. I want to say
Of
that
course.
this is such a wonderful show, doing wonderful things for many people out there. It's been such a meaningful conversation. For anyone who wants to learn more or stay connected, you can find everything at Simply Wellness llc.com. And this is where we share resources, our services, and different ways you can work with us. I'm also very active on Instagram, and you can find me at Sammy Peterson RD. And this is where I share practical, real life wellness support and behind the scenes education. And then also, if you love podcasts, I host what's called the Simply Wellness Show, which is available on all major podcast platforms. It's where we have these kind of conversations regularly, really focusing on making health feel simpler, more supportive, and ultimately sustainable in real life.
Thank you so much again for sharing your expertise and reminding us that wellness doesn't have to be overwhelming. It can be simple, supportive, and actually feel good. And
Yes.
I hope this conversation has helped our listeners feel more confident as they navigate their healthcare journeys. Have a great day. If you have a question for Ask the Patient Advocate, email advocate@pathwaypa.com. Managing your health and navigating the healthcare system is challenging, but it's a lot better when we go through it together.